don't hold provincial council elections, Pevidi Hunter makes a written request. What is happening at the East Container Terminal? Trade unions question the authorities.
ඉන්දියානු ජනතාව මහපාරේ මරා දානවා. ඒ අදානි සමාගම ලංකාවට ආදරෙන් ආයෝජනය කරයි.
Monks protest against allowing burials in Sri Lanka.
ඡන්දය දුන්නේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂට. නමුත් මේ වෙනකොට අලිසබ්රි තමයි රට පාලනය කරන තත්ත්වයට පත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
25 statements recorded over the importation of garbage from Ukraine. Sri Lanka's Basel committee decides to re-export them immediately.
Main sponsor.
A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's take a look at the stories in detail. The Acting Chief of Defence Staff and the Commander of Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, and the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence, retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne, have been promoted to the 4-star rank of General in the Sri Lanka Army under the powers vested with the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Earlier, General Shavendra Silva has held responsibilities as the Chief of Staff of Sri Lanka Army. He had also served as Sri Lankan Ambassador and the Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations headquarters. General Kamal Gunaratne, who is the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence, acted as the former Commander of Security Forces headquarters at the Deputy Ambassador to Brazil. Municipal councils, urban councils and Pradesh Sabhas are the local government institutions that are closest to the people in the governing mechanism. Now, these institutions are connected to the people throughout their lives. What sort of service can these institutions provide for the people? However, people are now distancing themselves from these institutions after seeing the manner in which the members conduct themselves. 10 situations were reported today as well at 3 Pradesh Sabhas when the budget proposals for the year 2021 were taken up for a vote.
The council meeting at the Padiyatalawa Pradesh Sabha in Ampara was chaired by its chairman H.M. Lalanta Sumit Senviratne. The Padiyatalawa Pradesh Sabha has a total of 20 members, 19 of them were absent today. The budget proposal that was presented to the council last week was defeated after even government councillors opposed it. The budget proposal was presented for the second time today.
The budget proposal presented to the council by the chairman is considered to have been passed. While thanking the secretary to the Ministry of Provincial Councils, I conclude the meeting today.
Councillors oppose this move.
Over 14 councillors oppose this budget. This is an undemocratic Pradesh Sabha. We will have to work under a monarchy if that is the case. There is no need for the public opinion.
The meeting of the Rambayava Pradesh Sabha today was chaired by its chairman. At the start of the meeting, 17 members from the governing faction of the council left the chambers demanding the chairman to resign.
Our right as public representatives is to voice the concerns of the people at the council meetings has been kicked out of the door. All the members of the council, both government and opposition, walked out of the council meeting in protest of the action of the chairman.
The budget proposal of the Rambayava Pradesh Sabha for the year 2021 was previously defeated as government members of the council voted against the budget. The Ruwanwella Pradesh Sabha in Kegol was chaired by its chairman today. A member of the council who entered the chamber during the meeting said that he had been abducted this morning.
අපේ පිස්තෝලකට අපි බය නැහැ. ඒ පිස්තෝලකට අපි බය නැහැ. මර්ධනයට අපි බය නැති අය කියලා මං කිව්වා. මටත් ගැහුවා.
During the council meeting today, a vote was taken on the budget proposal. 11 councillors voted in favour of the budget, while 17 councillors voted against it. Meanwhile, the councillor who claimed that he was kidnapped expressed these views to the media.
I was attacked, then I retaliated. Then we scuffled. I was forced inside a van and they threatened to kill me. I told them to go ahead and kill me. These are the scars of this attack. There were 3 people. They took my phone.
The councillor who claimed to have been abducted filed a complaint at the police over the incident.
What you just saw was the cost for holding the provincial council elections. Will the provincial council elections be held? Here are some of the views expressed regarding the matter.
They passed the 20th Amendment to the Constitution, promising a new Constitution. Now they have left all that aside and are planning on holding the Provincial Council election. They are trying to make the Provincial Council election an index to measure the popularity of the government. The tax on sugar was made 25 cents for the company Wilmar. They made profits of 10 to 15 billion per day. The Wilmar company earned another 200 million after coconut oil prices were reduced. If the Provincial Council election is held, it will cost about 6 to 7 billion rupees. So if the government does not have enough money to purchase vaccines, why do they want to spend money on holding the provincial council elections? So we can hold the election, but the people must first be alive to vote at the election. By the end of the election, we will be able to find 200 to 300 bodies every day. The best way forward is to use the money that would be spent on the election to purchase vaccines for the people and then hold the election.
තියෙන සල්ලිත් අපි මිනිස්සුන්ගේ එන්නතර වියදම් කරලා මිනිස්සු ජීවත් කරවලා ඡන්දෙ තියන්න යනවා නම් ඒක තමයි වඩා හොඳ.
Whether or not we are going to preserve the provincial councils is a separate question. We as a party are of the stance that public representatives must be appointed to these provincial councils. We will act on that stance.
I am of the opinion that it will be more appropriate for the new constitution to be presented before the provincial council elections are held. There is an issue as to if we should continue to follow the system that was forcibly imposed upon us in 1987.
Although they say the provincial councils are white elephants, that is only the case when there are incompetent people there. I am not thinking about my brother when speaking on these matters. As a former provincial councillor, I am speaking about this matter as the services provided by the provincial councils have completely stopped.
Why does the government want to maintain 400 to 500 ministers? This is done to show gratitude to all those who helped these leaders come into power, to pay them their dues. The people are not at fault here. They are trying to create the second tier of leaders who aspire to be like them.
My personal opinion is that the provincial council elections should be held. After that, we will be able to make the necessary changes.
The Mahasangha is having a small opposition against the provincial councils, but we as a party are of the stance that the provincial council elections should be held. Our party is of that stance.
These provincial councils are white elephants. There is no use of having them. Nonetheless, the white elephants must be fed. The provincial councils are also like that. The funds from the central government or local government are used to maintain these provincial councils. We request the government and hopeful provincial council candidates not to push Sri Lanka further into poverty by holding this unwanted election. The central government can handle all of that.
Personally, I am not in favor of establishing provincial councils again. There can be some good that could come out of establishing them again, but the good that can come about is overweighed by the bad. So we request the government not to go ahead with this. I would like to remind the government that it is their duty to give a solution to this as soon as possible. The Pavidi Hunter organization, convening a media briefing today, warned the government of the future course of action they would take if the government decides to hold the provincial council polls. The Mahasangha handed over an epistle to the President, the Prime Minister and members of the Parliament and party leaders regarding the provincial council election. A seat at the Western Provincial Council went for 600,000 rupees. We know the hassle parents had to undergo to enter their children to schools. We would like to ask as to what benefit the people of this country had reaped from the provincial council. We can tell you about the plight of the people because of the provincial council. That is why I said the provincial council election is a white elephant. Therefore, we urge the government not to hold this provincial council election. If the government tries to hold this provincial council polls, the Mahasangha will go to the people and emphasize on the negativity and the danger of this matter. Now, India has also given up on this matter. They are now trying to hold the election to please a particular group of people. This is an election that they are going to hold to provide employment and vehicle permits to a certain set of people. What we say to the government is to stop this and let the people enjoy the resources that the government is trying to put to this.
අපි ආණ්ඩුවට කියන්නේ මේක වළක්වලා ඒ සම්පත්වල ප්‍රයෝජනේ ජනතාවට දෙන්න. ජනාධිපතිතුමා තීන්දුව කළොත්
if the president decides to hold the provincial council elections, that means there will be no constitution. Like we formed this government, in this matter, we will have to take the side of the people.
ජාතික සංවිධාන අඩියක්වත් පස්සට ගන්නේ නැහැ.
ආණ්ඩුව දැන් අඩියක් පස්සට ගනීද දැන් ඔය තියෙන දේත් එක්ක?
කකුල් තියෙනම් ගන්න ඕනේ පස්සට. අපි අදහස් කරා.
After Honorable Gotabaya Rajapaksa came into power, we expected that he would abolish this provincial council system. But as we can see now, an invisible force is pulling the strings. Everybody knows that these theatrics will be seen by the people in the future.
හැංගි වෙස් බැන්දා නටන්නේ එළිය කියන කවුරුත් දන්නවා. එහෙමනම් අපි පාලකයින්ට කියනවා දැන් ඔය බඳින වෙස් ටික ප්‍රසිද්ධිය බඳින්න. ඔබ බඳින වෙස් සියල්ලක්ම ගලවා දමන්නට මේ රටේ මහ ජනතාව සූදානම්.
We will not oppose this if the government brings a new constitution and hold the provincial council election.
අපි විරුද්ධ නැහැ.
ඔයගොල්ලෝ යෝජනාවක් අපිට ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ මෙන්න මෙහා ගණනාවත් හොඳයි කියලා රටට. මාධ්‍යවේදීන් හැටියට නැත්නම් මාධ්‍යවේදීන්
එරිය මහා සංගරෝණ මහා පාරවහනට සූදානම් වෙන්න යනවා.
අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපි දිස්ත්‍රික් මට්ටමින් ගෙනියනවා වැඩ පිළිවෙල. මේක දිගට යනවා නා.
A meeting for the ruling party leaders is currently being held at the Presidential Secretariat. According to our correspondent, several representatives of the ruling party attended the meeting. MPs of the ruling party recently said a decision regarding the provincial council elections will be made at this meeting.
Main sponsor.
Legends 966 this season. A collection of the most memorable songs, Christmas hits and family favorites 24/7. Tune in now.
Struggling to find reliable plumbers, electricians, gardeners and other service providers? Bellboys got you covered.
Also in local news, the Sena caterpillar menace, which originated from the Ampara district, is now spread across 8 provinces in the country. Farmers who have been battered by this disease request nothing but providing compensation for their losses.
Only the western province is ridden from the Sena caterpillar menace as of now. Newsfirst focused on the damage caused to the areas of Tottama, Mantottama, Varalanda. Most farmers in these villages located near the Damana and Ampara divisional secretariats decided to cultivate corn in the Maha season. Another group had cultivated corn in their gardens as well. All these cultivations are now destroyed by the Sena caterpillar menace.
ප්‍රශ්නයක් සහ පෙහෙලිකාවක් අපිට මේ තරම් පණුව ඉන්නවද කියන්නේ මේ වගාවල් මේක සැකයක් මතුන අපිට ඇත්තට මේ බීජ තුලම මේ පණුව හට ගන්නවද කියන එක මේ පණුව විහිවීමට හේතුව හොයාගන්න කියන එක තමයි ඉල්ලීම කරන්නේ
වියදම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ අපි ණයට තමයි සේරම කරලා තියෙන්නේ අපිට දැන් මේ මොකක් හරි සහනයක් ලබා දෙනවා නම් ගොඩක් හොඳයි
රජයෙන් කිසිම විසඳුමක් මේකට මේනකල් දීලා නැහැ දැන් මේක සම්පූර්ණ එහෙම් පිට මේ ඉරුම් ගත් ටික ඔක්කොම කාගෙන එහෙම් පිටෙන් ඉවර වෙගෙන යනවා
දැන් ලස්ස ගානක් ක්‍රීඩම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ මේ හේනේ. ඉතින් දැන් 7-5කවත් වැඩක් නැතිලා ඉන්නයක් තමයි තියෙන්නේ. අපි මේ 7-5ක් කැල්ලා අපි බොහොම අමාරුන් ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. දලඹුවා ඉතින් සේරම විනාශ කරනවා.
According to the farmers, the Sena caterpillar causes more damage to paddy. The only relief these farmers have is their other crops being free from the Sena caterpillar menace. Thousands of farmers who are committed and devoted to keep a nation out of starvation are now starving after sacrificing their crops to the Sena caterpillar menace.
භෝග 6ක් රක්ෂණය කරලා තියෙනවා. ගොවියා නොමිලේ රක්ෂණය කරලා තියෙනවා.
6 crops have been insured by farmers. Maize is included in that. If crop damages occur to any of those crops, compensation must be paid. Now there is no plan to compensate maize farmers. Is the Agricultural Insurance Board snoozing? Farmers in Ampara have not been compensated 330 million rupees, while farmers in Monoragal have not been compensated 160 million rupees. This system should change. 40,000 rupees per acre should be paid. Acres of corn farms have been destroyed. Farmers request a compensation of 100,000 rupees per damaged acre.
අක්කරයකට රුපියල් ලක්ෂයක වන්දියක් පූර්ණ හානි වෙච්ච ගොවින්ට ගෙවන්න කියලා ගොවින්ගේ ඉල්ලීමක් තිබුණා.
The discourse on the attempts to hand over the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port to the Adani Group in India continues to broaden each day. Operations at the terminal commenced on the 27th of October following sustained pressure exerted by port trade unions on the authorities. However, a cabinet memorandum presented by Subject Minister Rohit Abhigunwardena on the 22nd of October notes the Sri Lanka Ports Authority does not possess the necessary funds to manage operations of the terminal. The minister has therefore highlighted the need of transferring the managing of operations to the Adani Group in India. Post trade unions expressed their views on this matter today.
It is treason if they are attempting to sell national assets hiding behind COVID-19. The top brass of the police has asked us not to protest. If we are protesting while adhering to quarantine protocols, we are only doing so to protect the national assets of the country. The ECT is to be sold off under the guise of investments. For certain MPs, these may be toys. But for us, the working class, these are national treasures. This terminal can bring in more than $200 million. If they are attempting to sell it, that is an act of treason. We need to teach this government a lesson if they are attempting to sell off our assets while COVID-19 continues to plague the nation. The people of India and Australia have rejected the Adani Group. Many Indian farmers have died due to the protests. All the while, they attempt to bring in this group to Sri Lanka. Is this the change they envisaged? They cannot hold elections claiming that they are upholding democracy. What needs to be done is protecting the national assets, earning through those and upholding democracy.
We need investors. This was a country with a successful economy, but they have now crumbled into a country that is being bombed and therefore avoided by all investors. How is Sri Lanka going to develop? We have come into power to face a massive challenge of reverting this economy into a successful one. As a government, we can assure that we will not sell any asset that belongs to the citizens and future generations of this country. Meanwhile, convener of Voice Against Corruption, Wasantha Samarasinga, also expressed his views about the East Container Terminal, convening a media briefing today. We can find 50% of our monthly loan installment through the East Container Terminal, but this government is attempting to hand over this hen that lays golden eggs to the Adani Group. There are massive protests against the Adani Group of companies in India. Indian farmers are dying on the streets. Will that same company invest in Sri Lanka in a way that will benefit our country? Some people in the governing faction are also aware of this act. According to Bandula Gunawardena, they are silent, fearing that they will lose their ministerial portfolios. This will be the last breath of the Colombo port if this is taken away from us. Our port will not have a terminal in another 7 to 8 years because the smaller vessels that can dock at the other terminal will go out of use in the future.
The Indian farmers' protest against the centre's 3 agricultural laws entered the 33rd day today.
A 55-year-old farmer died of a heart attack while sitting on a dharna outside the BJP district president Yadvir Singh. The farmer was protesting outside the Yadvir since October 1st. Social activist Anna Hazare has threatened to go on a hunger strike if his demands on issues concerning farmers are not met by the union government by the end of January next year, and said that it would be his last protest. Hazare further said that he had been holding protests for cultivators since the last 3 years, but the government has not done anything to resolve the issue. Meanwhile, Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi said today the government should listen to the farmers and take back the farm laws. She tweeted, quote, "It is a sin to use the kind of words they are using for farmers. The government is answerable to the farmers. Government should listen to them and take back the laws." End quote.
3 more COVID-19 deaths were reported earlier this evening, raising the total number of deaths in Sri Lanka to 194. 366 COVID-19 patients were identified today, raising the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country to 41,420. The total number of recoveries stands at 33,221.
Meanwhile, the GMOA made remarks regarding the pilot project implemented to bring in tourists to Sri Lanka.
If the pilot project proves to be successful, we can move to the next step. If it fails, we must stop from there. This tourist project will commence in an air bubble system, so it should be carried out with minimum human contact and with minimum risk to the country. Health guidelines are provided by health experts. There won't be an issue as far as they are followed. However, practical issues will arise. We must solve those problems on a day-to-day basis and move forward while developing the tourism industry.
A flight carrying 180 Ukrainian tourists landed at the Mattala airport today. Former Ambassador Udayanga Veeratunga was also present to welcome the tourists. These tourists arrived in the island as part of a pilot program to revamp the fallen tourism industry in the country. The tourists will be lodged at hotels in Bentota and Koggala for 7 days, and PCR tests will be conducted on them. According to the results of those PCR tests, these tourists will be given the opportunity to tour certain selected areas in the country. Based on the success of this project, the airports in the country will be reopened for tourists. We decided to take over the responsibility of not allowing the virus to spread from the tourists to the public and also to keep the tourists safe. We will conduct this pilot project from today till the 19th of January. We will ensure that all of these tourists adhere to health guidelines, and we have permitted them to travel to certain specific locations under the biobubble method. We have made preparations to prevent these tourists from interacting with the locals in these areas. After the pilot project is over, these tourists will be sent back on an ordinary flight. As the tourists come to the island, they will be tested. After that, they will spend 5 to 7 days in a biobubble at designated locations. These include some of the most popular sites for tourists. We have held discussions with the heads of these institutions and made preparations for the tourists to visit these locations. Before we restarted the tourism sector, we identified the mistakes made by other countries. We started this project making sure that we do not repeat these mistakes in Sri Lanka. On one hand, we are repatriating Sri Lankans, and on the other hand, we are bringing down tourists to help our economy bounce back. We are paving the way for about 3 million people to get their livelihoods back.
A group of bhikkhus engaged in a protest requesting the government to refrain from burying the bodies of people who died due to COVID-19. The protest was staged by a group of bhikkhus along with representatives of civil societies.
A demonstration was held in front of the Presidential Secretariat. A memorandum was handed over by the group of protesters, was accepted by the Minister of Health Pavitra Wanyarachi. The memorandum states that the corona cremation should be legalized in accordance with the recommendations of the expert committee appointed by the Ministry of Health. As Supreme Court has approved the decision, there is a background in the country that all corona bodies should be cremated. Therefore, the monks request the President not to change the existing law and take steps to bury the corona bodies.
After receiving this message, the president should approach us and not the other way around. The president is not above us. He must realize it. He cannot give us orders. We request Minister Ali Sabri to refrain from changing the law just because you are the Minister of Justice. We remind him that if he does, he will have to face the consequences.
Even though Gotabaya Rajapaksa is elected, it has come to a point where it's Ali Sabri who is ruling the country.
We request the president to rule the country according to the people's mandate and not according to Nyanaka in Anuradhapura. Bhikkhus protesting on the streets on the chance it does not happen is a big embarrassment to the government and the president, because most of the Theros here protested on this very location to bring this government into power and faced court cases for it as well. Making us protest here on the streets is a big example of how this government has failed.
We would like to request this government trying to bury the dead. Don't make the bhikkhus protest on the streets like this anymore. Implement the one country, one law policy. 6.9 million people gave their mandate to the president. If the mandate of 6.9 million is being ignored and extremists' cravings are being satisfied, the bhikkhus are ready to protest on the streets. We would like to ask on what conscience did they pass the 20th with the support of Rishad Badiuddin and Rauf Hakim.
He got a parliamentary seat through the national list and an MP post after being the president's lackey. Today extremism is being spread. Are they afraid of Ali Sabri or do they have a deal with him?
Judicial medical officers of the country is storing bodies in freezers. However, the people's food are getting spoilt without being stored in fridges. Even though he reads the Saddharma Ratnavali and the Guttila Kavya, Ali Sabri is an extremist in disguise. We can clearly see that. Together with the judicial medical officers, he is releasing the COVID-19 positive bodies.
Again, COVID-19 positive vech dehayan nidahas karamin inno. Sir ko. COVID meeting එක දිනනවා නම් මේක කොයිත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් වඩා හොඳයි ප්‍රවර්ධනය කරන්න යනවා නම් අන්තවාදී ආගමික නීති තේරෙනවද ඉස්සරහට හාමුදුරු ඔක්කොම මේ රටේ එකදන් රැස් කළා හාමුදුරුවන්ට වෙනම අධිකරණයක් ඕන සැකකරු වශයෙන් අත්අඩංගුව ගන්න සියලුම හාමුදුරුවන් වහන්සේට ඇතිරිලි දාන්න ඕන උත්සාවිය තුල තේරුණාද ඒ වගේ තැනකට අපිව තල්ලු කරන්න එපා අපිට මුස්ලිම් මිනිස්සුත් එක්ක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ මෙතන ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ රටේ නීතිය පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක් මුස්ලිම් මිනිහ අධිකරණ ඇමති බවට පත් කළා දැන් මේ මිනිහා මුස්ලිම් හරිය නීතිය මේ රටේ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න වැඩ පිළිලක් කරනවා තේරුණාද ඒකින්ද මේ සිංහලයට ලැබිච්ච කෝට් එකට තමයි එතුමා ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ තල්ලු කරන්න තියාගන්න එපා හරිද පේනවනේ එන ඉක්මනට එන්න කියලා කතා කරන්න පුලිස් මැරෙලා එන ඉක්මනට එන්න කියන්නේ අපිට කාර්යාලයට යන්න හාමුදුරු ඒකයි දැන් විශේෂඥයින්ගේ මතයට තමයි අපි කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්නේ එක දේශපාලඥයෝ ස්ටේජ් වල කතා කරන හැපිචෝ කතා වලට ඡන්දෙ දුන්නේ මේ රටේ මිනිස්සු තේරුණාද ඒක හොඳට තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන මැති අමතුරුන් ඉඳලා മന്ത്രിවරයා දක්වා ඒ නිසා කරුණාකර ඒ දුන්නේ ඡන්දේ රටට එක නීතියක් හදන්න කියලා. අතවාදීන්ට ඕන මේ නීති සමාජගත කරන්න. ඒවා මේ රටේ කරන්න බෑ. මේක ටීෂර්ට් වල වෛරසයක් ආරක්ෂා කරන එකම රට ලංකාව. පුළුවන් නම් ඇමතිතුමියා අධිකරණ ඇමතිතුමාත් අයින් කරලා දෙන්න. නැත්තම්
The Interreligious Subcommittee of the Sri Lanka Amarapura and Ramanya Samagri Mahasangha Sabha has written to the President highlighting the need to bury the bodies of those who died of COVID-19. In a statement, the Interreligious Subcommittee said Muslims and Christians follow the ritual of burying their dead, and this is enshrined in the Constitution in Article 14(1) as a fundamental right. It went on to note, though cremation of COVID-19 victims was made mandatory via Gazette on the 11th of April, considerable research on the matter had been carried out over the past 8 months. The Interreligious Subcommittee of the Sri Lanka Amarapura and Ramanya Samagri Mahasangha Sabha believes the burial of COVID-19 victims should be carried out subject to conditions and with research. The Interreligious Subcommittee of the Sri Lanka Amarapura and Ramanya Samagri Mahasangha Sabha has called on the President to convene an emergency meeting with doctors, virologists, PHIs, religious leaders and other stakeholders to discuss the matter.
Meanwhile, the United National Party claimed that the crisis over the cremation of bodies of people who died due to COVID-19 has become a national and international issue that surpasses the subject of human rights violation. The UNP announced that the government has failed to come up with a solution. The statement said the government should prioritize the advice of religious leaders. The statement further added that the Mahanayaka Theras and the Archbishop were informed of UNP's stance on the matter.
Also in local news, a suspect who had hacked off the hands and legs of another in order to obtain information on a drug racket was shot dead by police on the way for an investigation.
The suspect was arrested on the 19th of this month on the charges of amputating the limbs of a person and scattering the dismembered limbs. The arrest was made by the Western Province North Crimes Division in Palyagoda.
The Western Province Crimes Division was conducting an operation in the suspect in the Halgampiti area in Veyangoda. The police had to resort to using force as a result of an altercation which occurred during the operation. The suspect had died upon admission to the Watupitiwala hospital.
The suspect was a resident of Bevanwatta, Veyangoda, named Nishanta Kumarasri. According to the police, several High Court cases are being heard against him. The injured police constable is also receiving treatment at the Watupitiwala hospital.
An investigation has been lodged into the incident under the supervision of the Gampha SSP. Accordingly, the police hope to take further action. Further investigations are being carried out.
Statements have been recorded from 25 individuals regarding the import of garbage containers into Sri Lanka from Ukraine. Members of 8 leading food import companies located along 4th and 5th crossroads in Fort are also among those questioned.
A few days ago, details of garbage being brought into the country in the guise of importing coriander came to light. The company, Agronica Trade, had imported 8 containers on the 10th of this month and 20 containers on the 21st of this month. The value of these containers without the customs tax is approximately 75.6 million rupees. 24 of the garbage containers in the custody of customs are at the Colombo port, while 4 others are being held at the customs inspection yard. The customs spokesperson Sunil Jayaratne said that investigations are being conducted regarding the garbage containers that were imported. Statements recorded by the intermediaries agents and clearance agents revealed that with information regarding the garbage containers coming to light, the companies that exported the containers had instructed the banks to halt the payments that are due. A number of institutions are due to be called to conduct a scientific investigation on the substances in the containers. The investigations will reveal the content of the containers and the presence of any insects that would be harmful to the environment. We attempted to find details about the Ukrainian company that exported the containers to Sri Lanka. However, the contact number and the fax number of the company are non-responsive.
We have identified that the containers include agricultural waste. The Sri Lanka Customs is investigating this matter. The Ukrainian Basel point has been notified of this. Countries that signed the Basel Convention are bound not to send garbage to other countries without their express consent. There were many containers with clinical waste that were brought into the island. There were 208 containers. Who brought these containers into the country? What is the company that brought it down? Who is the head of that company? Who supported them? Who are the politicians who supported them? If the leaders of the companies who brought down the clinical waste in the containers were brought before a court and punished, something like this would have never happened. Today this country is turning into a garbage dump with each passing day.
Leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa has demanded that the government provide relief to the people to pay their accumulated electricity bills.
Another phase of the opposition leaders' mobile service was carried out in Wallimatagama, Kataragama. A group of self-employed and daily wage earners presented problems they faced to the leader of the opposition.
What they say on election stages was that they will slash the electricity bills instead of issuing red notices. What the people are requesting is a chance for them to pay off the bills through a relief system. If the government fails to react to such pleas, we as the opposition strongly urge the government to introduce a relief system to pay off electricity bills. Recently, a certain government minister openly said in front of the media that the electricity bill for 2 months will be slashed, April and May. At the end, it was a lie. At the end, it has come to a situation where what is being cut are the heads of the people.
Sri Lanka is to benefit from the US government's foreign military financing program, given that it upholds multiple conditions introduced by the US government's amended Appropriation Act dated 21st December this year.
Under the US government's foreign military financing program, up to $15 million may be made available for assistance for Sri Lanka for the refurbishing of a high-endurance cutter, provided that in addition to such funds, up to $500,000 may be made available only for programs to support humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, instruction in human rights and related curricular development, and maritime security and domain awareness, including professionalization and training for the Navy and Coast Guard. Funds appropriated by this Act for assistance for the central government of Sri Lanka may be made available only if the Secretary of State certifies and reports to the US Committees on Appropriations that such governments are taking effective and consistent steps to A. Respect and uphold the rights and freedoms of the people of Sri Lanka, regardless of ethnicity and religious belief, including by investigating violations of human rights and holding perpetrators of such violations accountable. B. Increasing transparency and accountability in governance. C. Assert its sovereignty against influence by the People's Republic of China. And D. Promote reconciliation between ethnic and religious groups, particularly arising from past conflicts in Sri Lanka, including by 1. Addressing land confiscation and ownership issues, 2. Resolving cases of missing persons, including by maintaining a functioning Office of Missing Persons, 3. Reducing the presence of the armed forces in former conflict zones and restructuring the armed forces that contributes to post-conflict reconciliation and regional security, 4. Repealing or amending laws on arrest and detention by security forces to comply with international standards, and 5. Investigating allegations of arbitrary arrest and torture and supporting a credible justice mechanism.
The former chairman of SATOSA has been appointed as the chairman of Sri Lanka Standards Institution. He also currently holds the office of chairman of Lanka SATOSA. A few days ago, he resigned from the position of chairman of SATOSA and said that the reason for his decision to resign was the fact that he was too busy.
We saw Nushad Pereira resigning from the position of SATOSA chairman. He resigned from that position saying that he was too busy. But then immediately after that, he was appointed the chairman of the Sri Lanka Standards Institution. So how did this person who said that he is too busy be appointed as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Standard Institution? There is no work to do at the Sri Lanka Standards Institution. Is that institution a one that requires a person to come and head their operations when he is not busy? Is the Sri Lankan Standard Institution of no use? Either this is the fault of the Sri Lanka Standard Institution or this person is lying. We don't understand that how this government makes appointments to these institutions. They take appointments when they want and then resign when they are too busy. What is the procedure adopted when making appointments to top positions in these institutions? Is this what the state leader meant when he spoke about meritocracy? The government must explain this to the country.